Hi guys, bienvenidos to Todo Vida podcast. This is officially episode 19 and the last one for the year of 2024. I have some explaining to do because I definitely need to let you guys know where I've been, but also too, I just wanted to start off by letting you guys know that today's topic is going to be just talking about holiday grief. On this podcast, I tend to talk about a lot of topics that the average person, or I think like a lot of the content that's put on social media, doesn't really want to talk about. But before we dive into that, I definitely have some explaining to do to you guys. If you guys haven't noticed, I hadn't really recorded for about 2 months. So of course, I tend to be very vulnerable on this podcast, and I've always said it, no matter if I sound like a broken record, I've always said that when I speak on this podcast, I speak from experiences or things that I've lived through. So let me just dive right in. I'm obviously self-employed. I'm in a beauty industry where it's so normalized to be booked and busy. But if there's any entrepreneurships that are listening out there right now, I do want to go ahead and let you guys know that towards the holiday, it does tend to get a little bit slower for us. So don't panic. Entrepreneurship is not for the weak. But I also have to see the cup half full. You know, I'm busy every other time all year round. And like I've always said, God always provides enough. So with that being said, business did slow down for a little bit. So I think that honestly, it was needed, because I don't know if you guys were able to hear on past episodes. I was really talking about, you know, being drained and how to fill your cup and how to realign yourself and boundaries and stuff like that. And like I said, I speak from a place of experience, and I really, really had gone to a place of just feeling so drained. I started to see everything that I was doing, not necessarily without meaning, but I didn't have as much appreciation as I normally would for it, right? And I think that it takes a lot of humility to be able to admit that. It wasn't anything with malicious intent that I didn't intend to appreciate, but like, you know, when you're pouring from an empty cup, and you would think because I have this platform, you would think that because I'm self-employed, and you would think that because, you know, I have a storefront and all this stuff, you would think that I wouldn't have these issues. But I've said it, like I said in previous episodes, I'm normal just like everybody else. So the reason why I wanted to go ahead and update you guys is because I was really pouring from a place of nothing. Really, I was pouring from a place of exhaustion, and it didn't allow me to appreciate everything around me. My business, my podcast, the platform that has grown on it, the audience members. And while, yes, I did appreciate it, I didn't really like fully dive in and grasp what I was doing. You know, I always knew that I had good intentions behind it, but just to put it into perspective, you know, like even where I lay my head, you know, I was just like, like I'm in this super big house. I'm all the way in, I live in Redlands. I'm all the way out here. It's just getting to be a lot for me. And then it came to a point where like I got slower and I was able to pay my rent just on time. And I was like, oh, would you look at that? I'm very appreciative for my home now. I'm very appreciative for the space that I get to call my own, right? My car, I was like down to being like, I want to get a new car already. Like, you know, next thing you know, I was telling my producer, I was like, my windshield cracked. Then I was like, dang, my car would look real good without a cracked windshield, you know, like, so it took me even not being able to record for about 2 months to be able to be like, wow, I really miss recording, and I really miss conveying these messages of perseverance and just talking about topics that I think social media just does not talk about. And like I've always said, there's a lot of oversaturated content on the internet, but it took me seeing my podcast from the perspective of an audience member to be like, wow, I really was doing something here, and I am doing something, and I love being on this platform, and I love that it's become an outlet for me. So for me to be able to really redirect myself, and I know some people can probably relate that they're at a point of exhaustion, and I've said it in previous episodes, but honestly, I think that the root of it was just seeing that, you know, I don't really have family. I come from a family that does not know boundaries, you know, so how are they going to have it with me? And I'm one that when I love, I wear my heart on my sleeve. So if my family doesn't even know boundaries, how can they implement it with me, right? And then what ends up happening, I overpour and I'm there for others the way I would like them to be for me. And I wasn't getting that in return. Same thing with relationships, friendships. Unless they're close to me, they've always stayed intact. If not, anything that wasn't for me has been let go. And I mean, I don't really sweat that, you know, but Yeah, I ended up just being like, you know what? I'm going to take a full plunge into just going to the gym, eating well, meal prepping, respecting my days off, catering to my home, and really just mind, body, and soul, making sure that my mind, body, and soul were correct so that I could come back on this platform and really be able to soak in the new year with appreciation. And ironically enough, right, we're in a season of giving thanks. So now that I've given you guys this update, I also want to go ahead and let you guys know that while today we're going to be talking about holiday grief, I think that these two subjects kind of come into play. What I mean by two subjects is what I just talked about right now, being at the point of exhaustion and feeling it through family members or feeling it through just getting caught up in day-to-day life, work, relationships, whatever. I think that we all tend to feel like that at one point, or at least have in the year 2024. And then here comes the holiday season, right? Where we tend to grieve relationships. We tend to grieve family members, probably not having family. And I think that there's this like hyper focus on the holidays that is meant to be a season of thanks. And instead it's made into a season of like, how many gifts can we get our family members? How many gifts can we get the people that mistreat us all year round? Or how many gifts can we get the partner that is half-assed loving me all year round? But then the holidays come and we just tend to over pour, right? There's just like, we live in a generation where it's so normalized to spend the money you don't even have during the holidays. And I know people would say like, well, if you don't have money, you shouldn't be buying gifts during the holidays. No, but we tend to want to emphasize the gift more than the relationship that has carried us through the entire year, right? So we'll buy that partner a gift, but we'll forget about our homegirl that picked up the phone call every single time throughout the year and gave us advice on this same relationship that we're going all out for. And we're putting like a price on our appreciation or our love for somebody during the holidays. And I don't think that that's the way that it should be. Ironically enough, all the things that were happening to me that I stated in the beginning of this episode came from a place of, like I said, just exhaustion. And these two topics really coincide. So now that I've aligned myself again, and now that I'm back on this platform, I really, really want to just speak on a topic that I think is relatable to a lot of people. Ironically enough, I decided to choose today, December 10th, to be the episode that I record. Usually I film on Tuesdays anyways, but I had let my producer know, hey, you know what? Let's do not this upcoming Tuesday, the following Tuesday. And it's a day that I really try to block out because without remembering or without realizing, it is my grandmother's 5-year anniversary of her passing. And I think that it just goes to show that my spirit guides are with me all the time, and really just there for me, because what a coincidence. Prior to even realizing that it was her 5-year anniversary of her calling back to heaven, I chose today to talk about holiday grief, because I think that holiday grief really hits all of us differently. And I think that a lot of us are easily sucked in to the idea of like, well, my home's not full on the holidays. Well, I'm not wearing the matching PJ set with so-and-so, during the holidays. And I don't think that that should be the importance of the holidays. I think that the importance of the holidays should be to be thankful for what you have. Even if it's not a full home, quality over quantity. Why would you want a home full of people that all year round talk behind your back, mistreat you, stuff like that? And like I've stated in other episodes, family are the ones that tend to get the most comfortable with us. So it's like we tend to look at social media and see everybody gathering with their family without knowing the background story of it. I'm not to say that all families are not intact, but for those of you that come from broken homes and you know what I'm talking about, that feeling of feeling like the holidays come around and you really feel like you have nobody in your corner. But the first person that's going to always be on your corner, and it's not wishy-washy, one, of course, is always going to be God, but two, it's going to be yourself. And you have to tend to appreciate maybe not that your home is full, but that you have somewhere to lay your head. Maybe that you don't have the brand new car you want, but you have a form of transportation and the way to get around. And during the holiday season, we get so caught up in putting a price on our appreciation for others or to display how many gifts we have underneath the Christmas tree, when that's not what the holiday season's about. It's about giving thanks. And just being able to pour into yourself, because if you're not intact, then you're going to tend to feel this grief more during the holidays. And people, I'm going to go obviously down the list of grief, holiday grief, because you feel it with family members. Of course, you also feel it with past loved ones. Shout out to everybody right now that's currently grieving somebody. If you lost someone this year, my heart goes out to you. Just know that it doesn't necessarily get easier. It just becomes something that you learn to cope with. And also too, like I stated in my episode with grief, just know that this season of, the holidays, even if you don't have a loved one that's currently with you, please, please, please do yourself and do them a favor and make the most of it. Still find appreciation in the little things. Keep on going with life, because essentially that's what they would have wanted. But I'm going to touch on all the subjects: holiday grief with family members, passing loved ones, and relationships. For those of you that are grieving friendships, girl, unless that friendship was paying a bill, I'm going to tell you right now, like, we can't control the actions of others, but I think the main three that are on my list right now, like I said, are just family, grieving a loved one, and also two relationships. So as far as family goes, I think I've stated it. I think I've been pretty transparent with it, that family are the ones that tend to get the most comfortable with you. So if you are not feeling the holiday spirit because your house isn't full of family, please analyze the relationship that you have with your family outside of the holiday spirit, right? Like, does this fill your cup? Are they good to you? Do they have your back behind your back? If that's not the essence of the relationship that you have with your family, then just, instead of grieving the fact that your house isn't full on the holidays, appreciate the fact that you have where to rest your head. Appreciate the small circle of friends that have turned into family, because they've been there for you probably more than blood has all year round. That's one. And two, just know that if you're sitting there wondering, like, well, why can't my mom get it together? Or why can't my dad get it together? You have to be able to carry peace within yourself. I think during the holidays, we tend to, again, just hyper focus on the relationships that we have with certain family members. And we sit there and we beat ourselves up wondering why there's not a change in their behavior or a change in their actions. And back down to like the most basic rule, which is we cannot control the actions of others. And two, you have to have peace with yourself, knowing that you've done enough to fill their cup. But it gets to a point of exhaustion where you have to realize, like, how is my cup getting poured? And don't rely on other people to pour into your cup. It's going to start with you, because if you rely on other people to pour into your cup, you're going to quickly realize, or maybe not, you're going to realize once you're exhausted that takers don't know when to stop taking. And even if it's family. So if you're grieving, like I said, that you don't have a house full of family on the holidays, it's like, what is the quality of the relationship outside of just the holidays? Like, are you just feeling it because it's the holidays? Are you feeling it because you see other people and you see that their homes are full? Just a little insight, right? So for Thanksgiving, I don't have family, guys. So for Thanksgiving, it was literally my dad. I have my brother, and he didn't even show up. So it was literally just my dad and I. My cousin showed up because she knew I was going to be alone. And two of my other cousins ended up showing up later on in the night, just because I think they can kind of relate to not having like where to go for the holidays. So whatever. They end up coming, and when they ended up coming for the holidays, or like at least just for Thanksgiving, in that moment, I realized, like, I'd rather have quality over quantity, really, truly, and when I ended up coming back to work, I ended up hearing, to make conversation, I ask my clients, like, oh, so how was your Thanksgiving? Or do you have a big family? That's usually what I would ask. And they'd be like, yeah, we have a huge family. And my first thought, right, was like, oh, lucky, like you have a huge family. And then like 15 minutes into the appointment time, I start to hear that there's chisme with the tia's beefing it with the tío, mom and dad aren't talking. And I was like, you know what? I'm grateful to have had my space, and the few people that showed up where I knew that the relationships that I had with them are genuine. And it may not have been a quantity amount of people, but it was the quality of people that I had. So yeah, sometimes having big families is, I know we tend to see that on social media a lot. We tend to see like, oh, so-and-so got a bunch of tias and so-and-so get together. You don't be knowing the chisme that's coming outside of those Instagram posts. All right. And That's one. And two, just appreciate what you have. You got to see the cup half full, because the holidays are not based out of the value of gift that you get somebody else. Like, for example, me, I would go all out for my family. There was a year I spent like $3,000 alone on Christmas gifts, right? And now I have my friends that I could get them some, like an intentional gift, like an hour massage and a Starbucks gift card, because I know that they love that and I know that they appreciate that self-care. They will appreciate that more than the Chanel perfume I bought my dad, or, you know, the palette that I bought so-and-so, you know, like they'll appreciate that way more. And I think it takes people that don't really have that army behind them to really just appreciate the small stuff and the things that are given to them during the holidays. And not because it has a price on it, but because who it's coming from and the intention behind it. So we get so wrapped up in the value of the gift that we're giving during the holidays to be able to show or solidify the appreciation we have for that person. But it's like, come on, guys. Like right after December comes January, and we come to realize, like, dude, I did for others. And that's how we get to what I said in the beginning of the episode, like that point of exhaustion. We overexude ourselves sometimes for family members during the holidays. And then we tend to do that in relationships as well. It's like, oh, you guys so desperately want that matching PJ picture while homeboy's probably been unfaithful all year round, you know? Or just pouring into a relationship that it's like a lot of people just get caught up in the idea of what the holidays should look like with the partner, going to see Christmas lights, like I said, the matching PJs, my man spoiled me this. And it's like, that's cool. I'm glad you got the gift that you wanted, friend. But how is the treatment outside of that gift? How is the moral? How is the respect? How is the loyalty? How is the problem solving that they display outside of just spoiling you for Christmas, right? So when you are someone who doesn't have, like I said, that army behind you, and you see all this being displayed on social media, it's so easy to get caught up with the idea of like, I would love to have that. Well, one, at what cost? And two, is it going to be a relationship that has like meaning, respect, love, quality to it, you know? So I just don't want you guys to get wrapped up in that idea, because we tend to do that a lot during the holiday season, and we tend to forget what the true meaning of the holiday season is about. I had seen a video that said, if you read one chapter of the book of Luke in the Bible each day of December, by the 24th, you will know what the true meaning of Christmas is. Now, I have some catching up to do because I still got a few chapters to read, but that's something that I told myself, I was like, I'd much rather do that. And as I say it on the podcast today, I'm going to make sure I go home and I'm going to make sure I read it myself so that I can implement it. And when I'm most likely alone on Christmas or with friends instead of family, because, you know, we have this like loyalty of like, no, we should be with family during the holidays. And it's like, but that's not a place of quality for me. I would much rather be with friends. And yeah, you know, I used to say like two things. I used to feel like a charity case being with friends during the holidays, because I would be like, I should be with my family. They're here celebrating with their family. I should be here with my family. But then it's like, at what cost though? It's like, this friend has been more a family to me, and their family recognizes me more than my own family does. So, you know, it's cool. I don't need to feel bad. I don't need to feel like a charity case. I'm thankful enough to get the invite to be here. So I'm going to go ahead and utilize that invitation. But if I end up being alone on Christmas or whatever, because I also used to feel bad. I also just used to feel bad. Like ever since my brother passed away and my uncle and my grandma passed away, I felt like I don't want this to be I have this like anxiety towards death. Like I don't want this to be the last year that I possibly have my dad. And so I want to make sure I spend it with him. And it's like, you know, I tend to show lots of love and respect to my dad on social media, and it's never been anything that I've spoken about. But we don't really have boundaries because my dad wasn't raised with boundaries. While he's an amazing provider and he's been a great dad, I just think like anybody, you know, sometimes when you're raised like that, they tend to not know boundaries. So I just told myself, like, you know what, in order for me to be able to pour into my mental health, I need to just be away for a little bit. Doesn't mean I love him any less. Doesn't mean I have any hatred in my heart or anything negative towards him or nothing like that. But during the holiday season, I tend to feel grief a little bit more, and I tend to feel this guilt a little bit more. And in order for me to avoid feeling that, I need to make sure that I am doing stuff for myself all year round that is sustainable to my mental health and to me feeling good about myself. So with that being said, if I end up being alone or if I end up going with my friend's family, whatever, during the holidays, I'm going to be appreciative for the time spent. And I'm going to read the book of Luke just so that way I can really grasp what the true meaning of Christmas is all about. And then lastly, on that subject, what I do want to touch on is the holiday grief of past loved ones. Now, I've spoken about grief before, and it's really tricky subject. I hope that when I convey this message towards grief of a passing of a loved one, I hope that I convey it in a perspective of strength, perseverance, and just overall faith and hope for you guys to know that our spirit guides are constantly guiding us. And I know that sounds very like, I don't know what to call it, like very spiritual and like holistic and all that stuff. But it's like, no, it's like, I don't know if holistic's the right word, but like, I just want you guys to know that they're constantly with us. And as cliche as it may sound, I think we need to understand that our physical capsule is only good for so long. And then eventually we transform like to the other side, and those signs and those messages of your loved ones are still going to be there, but it's also up to you to embrace them. It's also up to you to keep their memory alive. And while, yes, we feel the pain and we feel the hurt of them not physically being here and us not being able to hug them and kiss them and tell them that we love them for the holidays, love is able to travel through worlds, through realms that even if you can't physically say, I love you and hear that back from them, just know that they know you're thinking of them. And you also have to be on the lookout for the signs that they send you, because they can no longer convey the message to you of love through words, right? So you have to be open and willing to be able to watch the signs that do come from them. It definitely hasn't been easy. I will be the first to say I spent, a good 30 minutes on Thanksgiving crying for my brother and crying for my grandma, because I lack that family structure and I lack that family, like, just background. I don't have that. So I figured, maybe if my grandma was here, it would have been different. Or maybe if my brother was here, there would be one more person in my house, but I couldn't focus on that. I had to see the cup half full. And even down to like this podcast, shooting this episode today, I was on the phone with my cousin and she's like, what are you going to do today? And I said, I'm going to film the podcast. She's like, oh, what are you going to talk about today? And I said, holiday grief. And she's like, really? You're going to talk about it today? And I'm like, what is that? Like, I blocked out the day. And she's like, it's grandma's 5-year anniversary today. And I was like, oh, wow. And instead of sitting there and crying and being like, oh my God, like, I was like, wow, she really is with me. Like, she really is guiding me through everything that I'm doing. She's here for it. She's seeing it. And the way that I receive messages from my past loved ones are going to be completely different to the way that you receive them, right? But overall, your openness, your faith, and your heart have to be ready to receive that. And how do you get ready? By just being open, by just being vulnerable. I think during the holidays, it's so easy to get caught up in grief, and it's so easy to get caught up in the cup being half empty versus the cup being half full. First of all, I don't think that I should have to state this, but for those of you that aren't aware, or for those of you that have been blessed enough to not know this, there's a lot of people that did not get to see 2025. And if you're blessed enough to be able to see the year 2025, and if you're blessed with health to go into 2025, really grasp what you want out of life moving forward. I know with the new year comes new goals, new me, new this, but it's like, no, a fresh start is not a place. A fresh start is not a materialistic object. A fresh start is a mentality, is a mindset. And that starts with you. So going into 2025, because there are so many people that did not get to wake up another day and see the year that's to come, ask yourself, what do you want out of life? What do you want out of your career? What do you want out of love? What do you want out of self-love? What do you want out of yourself? And speak life into yourself. Because like I said, there's a lot of people that did not get to see 2025. So while this episode is about speaking of tough topics, like holiday grief and the dynamics between family members and the dynamics between relationships and, the lack of boundaries and the points of exhaustion, this podcast is also about perseverance. It's never been about moping on the sad stuff. It's never been about being focused on what other people have done to me or anything like that. No, this podcast was intended to speak about tough topics that we all experience and encounter, but how to persevere through them. And I've always said, I don't think I'm an example to people. And I used to think that being an example to you guys was being like this role model. But I think that I learned from the time of not being able to record and seeing myself through the perspective of an audience member, I definitely now can humbly say, I am an example. I'm an example of being perfectly imperfect, of being flawed, of being someone who's trying to figure it out, of being someone who experiences these things with you guys as well. And I'm very transparent. I'm very open that these are things that I experience as well. But I think that what has come to make me the example is the way that I reroute my experiences to the point of perseverance. And I speak of how to get yourself out of that, because I got to a point of just being exhausted. And I was like, what is the one thing that I'm looking for, right? And like this coincides with the topic of holiday grief, because I was like, what am I looking for, right? And I think that we feel it more during the holidays, but I think a lot of us do this all year round. It's just hyper focused, like even more during the holidays. It's like, well, I'd want a partner. I'd want a house full of family. I'd want this like army behind me. But then what ends up happening? We see that that's not reliable. We see that that's not permanent. And that's not something that we can, like I said, rely on. So what is? And that comes to you. That comes down to you, yourself, how much you pour into yourself. Because all year round, we tend to pour into others, filling our cup halfway full while we pour into others. And then we're left at the point of exhaustion. And we do it more so during the holidays. And it's like, no, that's not the way that it should be. Boundaries, especially during the holidays, because everybody wants to get, everyone wants to get so-and-so such a fly gift. And while that's really, really nice, it's like, well, when was the last time you did something for yourself? When was the last time? And it doesn't always have to be materialistic things. When was the last time you think you did something of substance for yourself? So for me, right, I was like thinking about it and I was like, well, I want to have family. I want a relationship. I want this. And I was like, no. What's the one thing you have not done for yourself? And I'm like, I haven't poured into me. I haven't been alone. I haven't been comfortable with being alone. And it's not that I feared being alone, but who doesn't want the things that we see on social media? Of course, I want to be spoiled too for the holidays, but guess what? Instead of focusing on like, dang, nobody bought me nothing for Christmas, I'm blessed enough to be able to buy myself something. Instead of realizing like, oh man, I don't have a house full of people. That's okay. I'm able to provide myself a safe place and a home where I can come and lay my head at night or simply enjoy just the little things, being with my dogs and stuff like that, So I really had to redirect my energy in order for me to be able to continue to function in my business, on my podcast. And I think the things that I was feeling all year round, I think that it's more so felt during the holidays because of holiday grief, because of the relationship that we don't have with family members, because of the poor relationships we partake in with people. And the one that obviously is inevitable when you have lost someone due to, to death is the holiday grief that you feel when a loved one's not here. But if I were to sit there and focus on, for example, my grandma not being here, I wouldn't have been able to see the blessing in her guidance today down to this episode. And being appreciative even for that, instead of focusing on the fact that she's not here, I can't hug her, she's not in my home with me for the holidays. It's like, look, had I been so focused in the grief of not having her, I wouldn't have been able to see the way that she's guiding me through heaven. And I know we would say, oh, ironic, right? Oh, it was just a coincidence that I decided today to film. Guys, I'm going to be completely vulnerable here. The month of December is still slow for me. So to go and record, there's a price on recording, guys. But I said, you know what? Doesn't matter. For some reason, I felt it in my heart that I needed to convey this message today to anybody listening. And what would you know? It's the year of her 5-year anniversary of her passing. And I did not calculate this. I had already had the topic decided prior to me recording. I was literally reminded today, a few hours prior to the episode that I'm recording right now, that it was my grandma's 5-year anniversary of her passing. So nothing is of coincidence. And I think that I had to experience the point of exhaustion. I had to experience the lack of appreciation for the things around me, for me to be able to speak on this topic today, because I was able to correlate two topics: the point of exhaustion, the point of overpouring into others, and then how we feel those same feelings during the holiday season, when really, what is a holiday season about? It's about being thankful. It's about being thankful for the things that you have. And I know it's easier said than done, right? But I think it took me seeing my income really cut down by half for me to realize, like, oh, wow, And it was crazy because during the month of October, I was extremely busy. And I remember asking myself, why don't you go to church? And I told myself, I was like, I don't have time. And that's kind of harsh to say, right? Because he wakes us up every day and he gives us the time, right? And I told myself, I kind of laughed. And I as soon as I said that, I was like, don't let business slow down, because he's going to give you time to go. And I was like, oh, dude, don't, like, talking to myself. I'm like, dude, shut up. Don't say that. I wouldn't want that to happen. And I was like, I don't even know what I would do if that would happen. And now that it had happened, I'm like, wow. Yep, that was definitely needed. If you always tend to God it, you're never going to need God. Because if you always have that feeling of like, I got it, when are you going to need him? You're not going to feel like you need him because you always got it, right? And for example, it's like the people that are healthy don't need hospitals. It's the people that are sick that needs hospitals. So when we feel like we got it all the time and we're healthy, we're not going to lean towards God. When we have everything, we're not going to lean towards him, right? And it's okay to go to him when you're broken, especially during this time of the holidays. It's completely okay to be able to go to him. I just want to remind you guys of that. And while I don't push faith on anybody, I think that when you move with faith and when you move with knowing that things are going to work out and trusting that your spirit guides are guiding you, you're able to see the blessing and the redirection. You're able to see the cup half full. You're able to see all of this that I'm speaking about. And one thing that I really, really want you guys to remember going into 2025 is that a lot of people are going into this year, while we tend to just focus on the holidays and wanting to give all these people gifts and wanting to have that perfect photo of the matching PJs and the Christmas lights and all that, I think we need to go down to the basics and remember that this holiday season is to give thanks. And that's something that we should have all year round, because when we have that feeling all year round, we're not over exuding ourselves during this season of the holidays. Okay, guys? And to overextend yourself all year round and then to do it even more during the holidays, that's crucial. That's not something that I want anybody to do, because I experienced it and it took me to a point of just flat out exhaustion. I had said it on the podcast, I had mentioned it, but because I had a certain, I just had responsibilities to uphold. So I didn't feel, like a standard. Yeah. Like I had like a standard to be like, I need to make this amount of money and I'm on a podcast and I'm the speaker and I'm a business owner and I'm this. Like I couldn't say like I'm crumbling on the inside. I couldn't say that. And then I think it took, a season of it being slow for me to be like, hey, Anytime as a business owner, especially as an entrepreneur, and your business gets slow or whatever, right? Which I just want to add out there. This is not like a pity party. Like my clientele is pretty sustainable all year round, right? So I can't sit here and tuck tail the moment that it gets slow during the holidays. Because if I'm feeling it as a business owner, I can only imagine how people are feeling it that are working off of like 9-to-5s and like fixed incomes, So I definitely have to be thankful that people even still put me in their budget to be able to come to me and not just tuck tail because, oh, it's slow during the holiday season. It's tough out here. The economy is what it is, right? But whenever you have a business and it gets slow, we tend to focus on but I need this amount of numbers. I need this. When you have faith, you'll know that God always provides enough. He always provides enough. I walk into it sometimes blindly at the end of the month, not knowing how it's going to happen, but live by faith, not by sight. And I know that some of us take that quite literal, because we get too scared to not see the numbers rolling in. But I can honestly say that the month of November and December have been my slowest months all year round. And I've been the most at peace. I've been able to meal prep. I've been able to go to the gym. I've been able to pay attention to less of things that are not of substance, especially when you have money, you could throw money at everything and you don't tend to really appreciate things for what they are because you could just throw money at it, But when example, right? My home, I was always working. So whenever it would get dirty, what would I do? Hire a cleaning lady. Whenever my load of laundry would stack up, hire a cleaning lady, right? And this month, I could not afford to do that. So what am I doing? I'm pouring into my home. And guess what? I have that much more appreciation for it now because I'm not just throwing money at it, So I definitely hope that today's topic was able to coincide, when I speak of the point of exhaustion, and I also speak about the holiday grief that we tend to feel and the pressures of society that we tend to feel as well because of what people display on social medias. But I also want to be able to convey the message of reality and what it is behind those stories on Instagram, what it is behind having a room full of family that, yes, family by blood, but what is the quality of the relationship outside of just getting together on Christmas? Or seeing the perfect image on social media of people at Christmas lights with their partner and the matching PJs, but it's let's talk about what the relationship really is outside of that, what kind of foundation that couple may have as far as morals, respect, and all that stuff goes. So I just don't want you guys to get caught up in it. And like I said, with holiday grief on feeling the passing of a loved one, go into 2025 with the idea that there's so many people that did not get to go into the new year. So really sit there and self-reflect and analyze, what do you want coming from this new year? Where do you want your goals to go? Nothing is unachievable. Just set your mind to it. As cliche as it may sound, we're capable of doing it. Walk with faith. That way you can achieve that goal. But really realign yourself going into the new year. What do I want my health to look like? What do I want my finances to look like? What do I want the quality of my relationships to look like? And just know that you're deserving of everything that you want. It's just up to you to go and work for it. So don't get caught up in this holiday season. Don't get caught up in the gift giving and the buying and the photos on Instagram and all the presents underneath the Christmas tree. Just see the cup half full. Your house is warm at night. You have where to rest your head, and you have a way of transportation. The basic blessings are the biggest riches of life. And I think that we tend to forget that, especially during the holidays. So with that being said, this is the last episode of 2024. We started this podcast in January. And I had no idea what was in store for me. I had no idea how this platform was going to grow. And here I am 12 months later. We're on episode 19. And even though I was supposed to film every 2 weeks, right? So essentially in the course of 12 months, I should have 24 episodes. The fact that I even made it to 19 is a blessing in itself. I really, really wanted to go ahead and appreciate all the people that have tuned in, all the beautiful messages that I've gotten. Of course, with anything good comes the bad, but we won't even talk about keyboard warriors. I just want to focus on all the amazing people that I've come across, the people that have reposted me, the people that have been able to really feel the messages and just really relate to them. You know, I always felt alone in the topics, or I always felt like this is such a sad topic. But I remember when I was recording, I would always say like, no, you always got to show perseverance. You always got to push through. And I think I've done a good job by conveying that on all the episodes. So instead of, like I said, focusing on the cup half empty, that, I should have had 24 episodes, I'm glad I even got to 19. I'm so thankful for the audience that I've been able to reach. I'm thankful for anybody that can relate to this topic, because it is hard. It is hard. Holiday grief is hard. Setting boundaries with people is hard. Having poor relationships with family members is hard. But you got to pick your heart. And I'm learning along the way. And I hope you guys are too. And I hope that when you guys are learning along the way, I hope that you guys learn and walk with faith. Because if you don't have faith, you're really not going to get far. It's going to be you being optimistic is going to be very limited, because our physical capsule can only grasp so much information, right? But like I said, walk by faith, not by sight. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for tuning in to Todo Vida podcast. I love you guys. Thank you guys so much. I have so many great things coming for 2025. I just know that God has not gotten me this far to just leave me here. He is a God that fulfills his promises. And, you know, it's just a reminder that he's with me every step of the way, and everything that I've encountered, everything that I've lived through down to this episode, and how I was feeling these last 2 months, and the encounters that I had with people, partner, family members, everything. I just want to be able to learn and grasp it and really see the true riches of life, which is that as long as we have life, we're going to have problems. But as long as we have life and we have health and we have faith, it's an equation that is just going to make sense every single time. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for tuning in to Todo Vida podcast. Make sure you guys follow us on YouTube, Spotify, Instagram, Todo Vida pod. If you're in the IE, looking at what to gift your girl or whatever, gift her some self-care. Come on down to Self-Care by Ash, Self-Care by Ash LLC on Instagram. I'm a Brazilian wax specialist located in the IE. And just thank you guys so, so much. Honestly, like, without you guys, there would be no Todo Vida podcast. There would be no Self-Care by Ash. There would be none of this, you know. But keep your guys' faith close to you. Remember to speak life into yourself. Remember, so many people didn't get to go into 2025, guys. So let's make the most out of it. While we have life, we're always going to have problems. But nevertheless, thank you guys for tuning in. And I'll see you guys in 2025. Peace out.